Hey there, Midlife Mamas. Welcome to the Healthy Lifestyle Habits podcast just for Midlife Mamas. Because let's be real, this midlife chapter is no joke. Our bodies are different, our minds are different, our hormones are different, and we're trying to figure out who we are after momming for all these years. This empty nest phase is an eye-opener for sure. What worked for us in our younger years is no longer serving us because we have so much life experience, and that's okay. This is a supportive space guiding you through those powerful 1% shifts to help you grow. As we know, health is not a one-size-fits-all, so each week you will learn about different topics, taking away tools and tips to implement. This season, we're going to tackle some of the biggest midlife questions that y'all have had about wellness in this chapter. We're going to be chatting about what is holding us back, where do we find joy, how do we prioritize ourselves through self-care. We're always going to be talking about ingredients, daily toxins, food swaps, breath work, and mindset, just to name a few. There's nothing better than feeling empowered to create the best next chapter. Am I right? After each episode, I hope you feel more equipped and at ease to take a step or two that will allow you to thrive. Whether you're a newbie or an OG listener, I am so glad that you're here. Let's embrace this new chapter and thrive together. Are you ready for all the possibilities? If you said yes, say, I am ready. Hey there, Midlife Mamas. It's Robin here. I am so excited to welcome you to a very special episode. We are in season 5, episode 1. And as you might have noticed, we've had a bit of a facelift. Because after 4 amazing seasons, I think it's time to pivot and rebrand to better serve you guys. So, welcome to the Healthy Lifestyle Habits for Midlife Mamas. Why the change, you might be asking? Well, through our journey together, I've realized that what we need now is different. My mission is always to help you find tools that work for you, that come from making those small, sustainable 1% shifts over time. And our new tagline says it all, 1% shifts empowering you to thrive. In each episode, whether it's a solo or an inspiring interview, we're going to focus on these little shifts. Your feedback has been absolutely invaluable to me, and I appreciate you guys showing up for yourselves. And I want to continue hearing from you. If you guys will continue to leave those amazing reviews and rates, it not only helps me to see what you guys are loving, it also helps for other people to find our community. So please keep sharing your thoughts and your ideas and those wonderful emails and DMs that tell me how much like a particular episode resonated with you or a 1% shift that you made. That is truly why I do what I do. I want to see and celebrate all of your wins. To my original listeners, thank you so much for showing up each week, ready to learn and grow. Your support has meant the world to me and continues to mean a lot to me. And this evolution of the podcast is all about making sure we continue to thrive together. And to my new listeners, welcome. I am so excited and glad that you're here, and I can't wait to embark on your journey with you, making these small, impactful shifts to better wellness. I just really wanted to say that, this show exists because I had the courage to start it, but it is your passion for your own wellness that truly makes it a very special podcast for me. I have heard from so many of you that you've tried all the things and you're here because you're looking for real, actionable steps that you can try on and create these meaningful, impactful shifts to create the lifestyle that actually moves the needle. This is really about showing up every day to create the life and the chapter that you want. And I know I'm definitely here for it. So thanks for coming and being here for it too. I wanted to kick the season off by sharing a bit of my journey because I think that, for people who don't know me or only know me from Instagram or just the podcast, I didn't just wake up one day the way that I am today. It's definitely been a journey, and it's been full of twists and turns, and I've grown and I've dipped, and it all has led me to where I am today. And I'm so grateful for every challenge and every experience that I've had. As I reflected on the steps that I took or I've been taking over the years, I realized that there were some very pivotal practices that showed me exactly what I needed to grow into a healthier version. And I'm still working on that today. One constant thread through all the ups and downs, all the dips and progressions, is that there's no one size fits anybody. Okay. There's no one person who has all the answers for every single person because we are all bio-individual. So there's no perfect diet. There's no perfect procedure. There's no perfect mindset practice. There's no perfect movement. There's no perfect food plan. Nothing fits everybody because we are all so unique. And that is the way that God created us. It's really, truly a personal journey to discover what works best for you at each stage of life. And I feel so excited that we're in this 2024 era where we have a lot of information at our fingertips that, yes, I know can be overwhelming, but definitely has led me to new practices that I would have never otherwise knew about to try out to see how they work, because a lot of those are really what moved my needle. And, the most infuriating yet empowering lesson that I've learned is that, I truly am the only one that knows how I feel on the inside and the out. And over the past decade, I realized that all the tools and curiosity within me to grow and move the needle is truly what I needed to create better health. And guess what? You guys have all of that same stuff internally. It's just sometimes we have to clear away the cobwebs and unlock the doors and open the pathways so that we can get a clearer picture of what our body is saying to us, because our body is always speaking to us, and it is truly about tuning in and listening to what it needs. And when I say tuning in, kind of a mental picture that you can get when I say that is taking a TV and turning the station. And, sometimes we watch the news, sometimes we watch, a series, sometimes we'll watch a documentary. And every time we turn it, we're turning to a different thing that is lighting us up. And that's the same thing in health and wellness. We have to keep turning the dial until we get all the parts and pieces that we need to put together in order to feel our best. So, reflecting on like my personal health story, in my household, wellness and health really wasn't a topic of conversation. Growing up, food wasn't really viewed as fuel. It was just part of our experiences. My dad was Jewish, my mom was Italian. So all of our gatherings were centered around food from basically sunup to sundown. Physical activity like walking, hiking, biking, that just was not part of our routine. It wasn't even really spoken about. It was really, truly all about like the socializing around the table and having those relationships. And while I absolutely cherish all of those family gatherings, I chose as an adult with my family to pivot just a tad bit. And I decided not to make food the forefront of everything, but to use food as fuel for my body. There was a really big disconnect in the understanding that movement isn't just for weight loss, that it actually is good for your overall health. It keeps us healthy. It strengthens our bones. It helps us to thrive later in life. It helps balance our hormones. And it truly is what gives us energy. So, that is something that didn't come for me until very much later in life. But I'm so happy that, again, my path took me there. So I want to just encourage you guys just to take a moment now or maybe after the podcast and just start getting curious. What were your messages that were sent to you about food and wellness as you were growing up? How have they shaped your journey? Do you still go by those same philosophies and thoughts, or have you pivoted and created your own? Do you feel like you just keep doing the same thing because it's all you kind of know? If you want to share, please do. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I think understanding our stories is really the first step to creating a healthier, more balanced lifestyle if you are somebody that didn't come from that growing up. So again, I just encourage you guys to get curious. So the next thing for me that really was like an aha in all aspects of wellness, that's food, it's personal care products, it's cleaning products. All of those things came to me via my children who had different ailments growing up. But as I became an adult, I needed to sort of start unlayering and figuring out things for myself. And when it came to food, honestly, as an adult, really all that I had seen were quote unquote fad diets, right? Fat free, Atkins, Weight Watchers, Slim Fast. That really was all I had seen. I never saw I never was provided with an understanding of nutrition, and not just the basics like macros and calories, but honestly, what is our food made of? And I find today that that's the most empowering and important thing, that if anybody walks away, that's the only thing they ever receive from me, is how to read their ingredients. I feel like that's a big enough shift to shift anybody's world. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you're buying and purchasing something, whether it is a food product, whether it is a home care product or personal care product, it is not just what's on the front of the package. I encourage you guys to flip it around if you haven't done so yet, and start getting curious about what the ingredients are. Because let's have an example. Like when my grandmother would stand in the kitchen and bake brownies, there was like 5 or 6 things on the counter. And that's the vision you should get when you're picking up food. Whoever is making this food should have that home cooking feeling where they have those 5, 6, 7 ingredients in it, even 10 ingredients, depending on what it is, if it's super, intricate. But for the most part, most foods that are created here at home have very little ingredients. But when you go to the store and you look at food on the shelf and you turn it around, sometimes they could have upwards of 30 or 40 ingredients. So what is that all about? Okay, those are ingredients to preserve. They're ingredients to sustain the shelf life so it could last a couple of years. It's cheap ingredients to make things at a cheaper cost, but be able to upsell them. It is things that are put in to make us want to desire that same food again. There are all kinds of stuff that we are very unaware of that are going into these foods that are then making us not our healthiest version. So when we're looking at purchasing foods, we need to stick as close to whole foods as possible. And for me, as I started to learn that, and definitely it was a gradual process, I made a bunch of 1% shifts over time. I didn't just wake up and throw everything out and start. I learned through my kids and my own, autoimmune condition, my kids' sensitivities, what we really needed to do and eliminate certain things to feel our best. And it came down to ingredients. It didn't come down to a whole entire product. It just came down to a few simple things that we needed to avoid, so that we didn't have the bloating, we didn't have the eczema outbreaks, we didn't have the stomach aches, we didn't get the hyperactivity behavior. For me, my inflammation markers went down when I just eliminated a few simple ingredients. So again, learning to read our ingredients, to me, is the most empowering thing for us, because it allows us to make the best choices when we are purchasing items. And I also believe that it helps us to vote with our dollars when we know what we're purchasing, because whatever we buy, we're supporting that company. We're supporting their bottom line to then keep producing that very unhealthy, ultra processed foods that nobody should really be ingesting. So reading ingredients, definitely huge for me, huge pivot for me. The next one was prioritizing sleep. I've always been a sleeper. Most of my friends know I get in the car and I pretty much can fall asleep unless I'm driving. The one thing that was really interesting though, is I didn't really understand why sleep was so crucial for our health and wellness. I now know how imperative it is to get good sleep, to heal, to restore ourselves while we are sleeping. And one of the key things that I learned was it's not just the sleep, it's the quality of sleep. It's how much sleep that we get, the quantity really matters. And so for me, a few takeaways that I have lived by for a very long time is I do not eat a couple of hours before I go to bed. And the reason being is that when we're sleeping, our body is actually trying to repair itself. But if your body is trying to sleep and sleep and repair itself, and you've given it food right before you drop into bed, it's also trying to digest food. And so when it's trying to do two different things, you're never going to have the most efficiency, right? So the digestion doesn't get done very well. You wake up, you feel sluggish, maybe you feel bloated, you feel yucky, you have heartburn. And then you also feel tired because you didn't get proper sleep. So I just don't eat a couple of hours before bed. I also, and this was newer for me in the last probably 4 years, we sleep in a very dark room. I do not have lights on. You know, if you think about, we have lights from our phones, lights from our alarm clocks. Some people have night lights. Some people sleep with their TV on. Those lights are actually stimulating to our brain even while we're sleeping. So if you're somebody that has a lit up room, I would encourage you to try to make it a darker setting and cooler setting so that your body can actually do what it needs to be doing while it's sleeping. I would start asking yourself, how many hours, consistent hours, do you get each night? Most people need between 6 and 8. Pay attention to your environment. Pay attention to how many hours you're sleeping. Pay attention to how you feel when you wake up. What are your food habits around bed and waking? I think those are all important things. Another big area was movement. And again, did not grow up in a very active family. So learning about movement for me came in that sense. I think most people first step into it, which is the gym. It's working really hard. It's running, walking for endless amounts of miles. It's weightlifting. It's rough, hard stuff. In my earlier years, some of that stuff did work. I never really truly enjoyed it. I did like CrossFit a little bit until I got injured, but going to the gym doesn't excite me. And therefore, it wasn't something that ever stuck for a long period of time. But coming up in this midlife chapter for me, hormones changing, life altering things happening, movement really began to shift for me. And when I now get movement in, I just, again, feel better. I show up better and I'm in a better place mentally. Also, walking in nature. I love to feel connected to the ground. I do love doing yoga because I love the understanding of connecting breath with your movement. That has done so much for me. Weightlifting, obviously, some weights, resistance training, just being in this midlife. I don't want to be on a walker when I'm older. I want to have strong bones. I want to take care of myself in the best way so that I can thrive with my kids in my older years. Getting still, that is a practice of movement. Getting still seems silly because you're being still, but that is a practice of movement because you're not moving your actual body, but you're moving your internal body. And that's just as important. And also stretching has made a huge difference too. I've discovered things that work for me. And again, what I do doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. So I want you guys to go on a journey and find things that bring you joy. Like when you were a kid, what did you do when you were a kid that brought you joy? Find something that lights you up. Do that. Try it out. I know I've talked on some of my social medias. We've been line dancing recently. I've gone a couple of times and it just brings me joy. So I'm going to continue to do that. And it's good for my body. I'm moving. I'm in community. I'm having fun. And to me, that's what movement is and needs to be for me to show up as my best self. So if you're struggling with movement, remember, it's so much more than going to the gym. If you love the gym, great. If you love CrossFit, great. If you're a runner, great. If it all makes you feel good, then that's working for you. But as we enter this midlife chapter and things start to shift, movement also impacts our cortisol levels. And as our estrogen decreases, that causes stress on our bodies, which increases cortisol on its own. So when we're adding fuel to that fire by doing very hardcore movement, we might actually be doing the opposite of helping. So we want to do activities that are least likely to give an extra spike to cortisol, especially while we're in this menopause era. If you're not, if you're, again, what you're doing, if that works for you, great. If it stops working for you, just remember, it's not you failing. It's not your body failing. It's natural changes that are occurring. And we just need to be kind. We need to give ourselves grace and we need to pivot and try other things that will give you the same satisfaction. And also help heal your body. With every little shift, I started to build a life that made me feel good. And again, it wasn't like I just woke up and ended here. It's been a journey. It's been a long process, but showing up with energy and excitement each day truly comes from the little shifts that I've made. Does that mean that I have a good day every day? Absolutely not. I mean, let's be real, life is lifey sometimes, but I handle the lifeiness a little bit differently because I have other tools now. As I transitioned, as I transitioned into a, more challenging time in my life, which to me is the caregiving role. At first I definitely was not prepared mentally for that challenge. And, as a result, unfortunately, my health did decline. I flared an autoimmune condition that I had, all due to stress. And, it really truly brought me to my knees where I had to admit that I could not be everything for everybody because it was taking me out. And so at that point, I really had to start digging for other tools to help me to go and figure out where I could shift and pivot and also heal myself. And that brought me to, honestly, one of the greatest things that has helped with my transformation to date, which is the internal work. Again, we're always consumed with the external. We're consumed with what we eat, what we look like, how we behave, the relationships we're in. All of this stuff is always external. But we really forget truly to reconnect with ourselves internally. And when I finally got that little message dropped on me, my life began to shift forward in a better light. So if you're someone that has not done internal work, and that could look like, visual meditations, it could be meditations, period. If you like listening ones, it could be just getting still and being with your thoughts. It could be doing quiet time every morning. It could be going to talk therapy, also doing body work. There's so many different avenues to going internal and growing. I feel very excited to be in this day and age where we do have these tools really at our fingertips if we just start to search for them. For me, learning to zoom out from a situation and seeing it from a broader perspective, which is what happens when you are doing some of these internal practices, helped me to take overwhelm and change it into something that serves me better. So you might be wondering, like, what in the world are you talking about? How did you do that? What are the things you do? I've never done anything like this. And again, there are so many options. So what works for me might not be what works for you. But for me, a couple of the very best things was getting still and breath work. Breath work for me is so simple, yet it's so incredibly powerful. So right now, if you're not driving or walking or doing anything, if you're just sitting, or if you're not in a place where you can do this right now, do this later. I want you guys to just stop for just a brief moment and close your eyes if you're able. If that's uncomfortable, you can kind of just look down at the floor. And I want you to take 3 slow, deep breaths in. I want you to breathe in your nose and then breathe out of your mouth. If you can make your exhale longer than your inhale, that also helps. So let's try it again. Inhale and exhale. And as you guys go to do your third breath, I just want you to notice how your body feels. As you inhale and you're filling up your lungs with air and you're expanding, how does that feel internally? And then as you're exhaling slowly and you're releasing, where are you feeling the release in your body? I typically feel the release in my shoulders because that is where I often hold tension and stress. So that's my first place I typically notice. You might notice it in your belly. You might notice it in your stomach. You might notice it in your back. You may notice it in your legs. So for everybody, it's going to be different. Very cool. I love that it's different for everybody. When you're doing that, not only are you focused in on what's happening and being present with your body, you're also signaling your body that you're going into a safe mode and that it's okay to calm. And as a result, your cortisol levels, and your heart rate will start to also decrease. So when life is lifey, when we come into a situation, we're not always going to be able to avoid challenges. It's just not possible. We're also not going to be able to avoid stress because stress is part of life. It is having the tools to work through, or after you are finished, to then reset yourself so that you don't stay in that hyper arousal state. You're able to come back down. Now that I've learned this, and it's been probably about 5-ish years at this point, I definitely have the ability to come out of things differently than I did years ago. And so for me, I do it daily because I don't want to miss an opportunity to rebalance myself. It's your nervous system, really, re-regulate, whatever you want to call it. It's just coming back to ourselves and remembering that within us, we have the power to decompress. We have the power to calm ourselves. And zooming out, I think, helps for us to get some clearer thoughts. So if you've never done breath work, if you've never done a meditation, I get curious. Try them on. They're not all going to work for everybody. There are visual meditations that are very, very spiritual. There are visual meditations in general that are more based on the Bible. There are meditations that are based more on just somebody speaking and bringing you into more of a meditative state where you're just calm. There are a bazillion kinds of meditations. And for me, I'm not really into all of them. I like certain ones because those seem to help me where I am now on my journey. One that doesn't resonate with me right now, maybe in the long run, it could be something that I go back to try, because as I shift and evolve and change, some of those things might, be better for me at that moment. And again, when something doesn't feel right or doesn't seem to be working, don't take it as a failure. Take it as your body is telling you that you're not ready for that particular thing quite yet. Because these transformations have to be one shift at a time. We can't expect to do one practice and come up and be somebody completely different. And so a visualization for that, guys, is like picture an onion. When you're peeling an onion, you don't just peel right to the center unless you're cutting it, right? You delayer each layer at a time. And that's basically when we are getting back in balance, when we are coming back to ourselves. It is truly about just unlayering and getting different tools for each piece that we come in contact with. I want this to be a beautiful journey for everybody, and I know that it can. And I am here really just to provide you with shifts, tools, tips, things that you can try on to see how they feel. I am not here to give you that quick fix. So if that aligns with you and you're new here, please keep listening. And if you are my quote unquote OG listener, I hope that you're still wanting to do this work for yourself and each week coming to get those 1% shifts. I really want to thank you guys for not just joining me today, but showing up for yourselves, because showing up for ourselves sometimes seems like a chore. And I want to shift that, because we need to be priority at this point in our lives. We have worked really hard. We are in a very interesting chapter of life. I will say that. Mothering is changing, parenting is changing. We are never going to be able to go back to that other human we were before kids. We are forever postmenopausal, or not postmenopausal. We are forever. Oh my gosh, I forgot the word. Yep, there you go. There's my menopause brain, guys. So we are forever postpartum. There we go. We're forever postpartum because we never get to go back to the human we were before kids. And it's the same thing about menopause. Once we get to that post-menopause, we are never going to be the same person that we were even 5 years ago. We are transitioning into something different. And so I want to embrace that. Let's all embrace that. Let's enjoy the ride. Not that it's always going to be fun, not that there's not going to be challenges, but you guys know that I'm starting to dig into this chapter of menopause and postmenopause, and I will be bringing you everything and anything that I learn along my way, because there is nobody out there that's going to hand us a step-by-step or a prescription or anything that is going to do all of the healing for us. Thank you again for tuning in today.
Hey
Thank you for tuning in to another episode on healthy lifestyle habits for midlife mamas. I hope you found a 1% shift this week to move you forward on your wellness journey. Remember, small changes add up to big transformations. I want to hear what resonated with you. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and rate the show. Your feedback is truly the only way that I know that you're taking away 1% shifts, adding value to your journey. It is also a way for others to find the podcast. My dream is to empower others to create health and healing. And so I would love for this show to spread wide and far. To stay connected, please check out my Instagram and Facebook pages at Live Life Balanced with Robin. Join my newsletter and grab some freebies at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com. And if you're looking to work one-on-one with a health coach, feel free to book a discovery call on my website as well. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your day. It truly means a lot that you are allowing me on your wellness journey with you. Until next time, find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to happen. Have a great day.